Undoubtedly, the world seems super fast these days, not just because of the internet and social media and the pace at which we are delivered just tons of content and news and changing trends, but also the noise that just comes up in our heads through thinking about the past, worrying about the future. It can all be a lot. So it had me thinking, what are the things that I do that I think encourage a little bit more simplicity in my life so that there's more space for me not to be worrying or in my head too much and just be in the moment. Even as I feel inspired to talk about this video, I'm aware that slow living has become a bit of a trend and having a gentle life. I like to think that that is just discussion that is pushing us in a good direction and not simply the trend of the month. But these are tools that I think are for more than just a moment in time. I brought over my money tree so that it can inspire good vibes for today's video, but I really just want to focus on that, on ways to really bring some serene calmness to life. I've always found audio to be a really unique way to play with creating environment in your space, and I think this is particularly true if you live in a small area, a small apartment, a small home. So many people now have experience in working from home and can probably relate to the weirdness that it feels like to be in a space working and then you just have to shut off your laptop and somehow leisure in the same space. It can be sometimes hard to shut off that switch or make that distinction, and that can lead to a lot of blurred lines between work and life. One way that I think is really easy to change the energy of a space without actually changing anything within it is to play with audio. Traditionally, that would look like, you know, if you're cooking, putting on a cooking playlist, or if you're reading, putting on a reading playlist. But I have found that there's another level of audio that really instantly adds calm, peace, serenity to a space in a way like no other, and it's by using Hertz frequencies. There are so many of these on YouTube. You just look up like Hertz frequency for sleep, or Hertz frequency for reading, or Hertz frequency for focus, and there's something that is so grounding about these tunes. There's no audio, no like lyrics, I guess is a better way to describe it, so it's not as distracting as sometimes some music can be. The Hertz frequencies have been a really great way to make my home feel like a peaceful oasis when I want to have those moments for peacefulness. So like when I'm meditating or when I am reading, instead of putting the TV on in the background, using one of those. I think there's a lot of beauty in silence and being with your thoughts and really understanding yourself, you know, and not always filling the space with noise. But at the same time, sometimes you can find yourself, or at least I find myself in this habit of worrying or getting anxious about things, like letting my thoughts go in directions that aren't really helpful for me, aren't very peaceful, and then you feel the need to distract yourself with something else. But I feel like when I put on a Hertz frequency, it kind of numbs everything out and allows me to be in almost silence, kind of a beautiful white noise silence that doesn't feel as negative as sometimes like just pure silence can be, particularly on those like rougher days. It's not always going to be the case for every single day, but if you're having like a blah day, then if you let your brain have free reign, it can sometimes feel like it's not going to do the job that you want it to do. Even my journal writing sessions in the morning, I've been using Hertz audio to just like kind of make it more focused and keep me dialed in, but it be in a really calming way. And I gotta say, the comment section of all of these types of frequency videos is always so positive. So even if you need like a little lift up, the comment section on those videos is going to give it to you. Highly recommend trying that out and playing with it. I'll even include links to a few examples in the description box below in case you're curious. It's like instant spa vibes without actually going to a spa. What's not to love about that? I'm a recovering perfectionist, so my instinct sometimes is always to go into the all or nothing approach, but all or nothing is hard to get motivation and momentum for, right? Like it's hard to get into that headspace of like changing your life in a 180 way, but it is not hard to do it in really small steps that are achievable but over time add up to something significant. I think this is really applicable when it comes to keeping our space organized and cleaned and just in a state that we don't feel stressed about. I think there is so much to be said about how our environment can impact our mood. If your home is in chaos, and it's just going to promote more chaos in your brain. I don't mean that it means that our spaces have to be aesthetic and perfect and like a Pinterest or Instagram photo, because what is chaos to you might not be chaos to me. We can have different definitions of it. But in general, I think there's always benefit to making sure your space is constantly clean and inspiring to you, in a place where you can relax and feel like you can let go, and it doesn't add stress to your life. My secret to doing that in my life, with not just my home but a variety of other tasks, which we can get into, is the 10-minute timer. The 10-minute timer is so powerful because 10 minutes is just not an intimidating amount of time to do something. I think anyone can think that they can endure something for 10 minutes, even if it's something that you really don't want to do. This is a daily part of my closing shift routine. When it comes to the end of the day after dinner, I usually set a 10-minute timer and just quickly tidy the counters by wiping them down. I'll put things in rooms where they belong. But even when it comes to maintaining my space and needing to, you know, tackle a drawer or a cupboard, or sorting through receipts, going through your inbox, deleting apps, replying to emails that you need to get to, there's just so much power in 10 minutes. And I say there's so much power in this because I think the consequence of not doing certain tasks that we put off ends up creating more stress and noise in our head, because we are just building up this thing that maybe isn't as big of a deal as we're making it out to be, into this massive task. Also a powerful tool to incorporate into your work life, or on a day where you just feel really sluggish and need to feel empowered by something. 10 minutes. 10 minutes is all you need. In 2024, I've been doing a lot of work in managing my thoughts and beliefs, and just the way that my mental health, my inner environment operates. And that has led me down the path of finding work from Dr. Joe Dispenza. And when I read his book, Breaking the Habit of Being Yourself, one of the things that really came out from that book that shook me to my core was that 95% of the thoughts that we have today are the same thoughts that we had yesterday. And the more I thought about it, the more true it just rang to me, because yeah, a lot of the self-deprecating thoughts that you have about yourself or myself, like, are similar ones I've been thinking for years. Narratives that you tell yourself, things about your past that you kind of go back to, or worries about the future that you constantly have. They can kind of play on repeat, and they shape your present reality and take you right out of the present moment. That has led me down the path to deepening my practice with meditation this year in ways that have been just so transformative and impactful in my life. But I'm not going to talk about meditation today. But I do want to talk about a technique that I think is really practical when you do catch yourself not only in those moments of maybe thinking the same thoughts that you had the day before, but more so when you find yourself thinking thoughts that are not serving you, are making you feel worse. I think your feelings are always a good indicator on whether or not these thoughts are good or bad. But if you're feeling more and more sluggish, and you kind of just eat that thought and let it consume you and let it drag you down, like, that's the worst feeling. So to get yourself out of that can be really tough, because there's just so much that's trying to keep you in it. So in those moments, I find it really powerful to think, or to challenge myself to say, not what is the best thought I can have right now, but what is a better thought I can have right now. And the reason I make that distinction is because, say I am worried about work, and there is a coworker that I am just so angry about, and they constantly are nitpicking me, and they don't do their work, so I end up having to do more work because they're not pulling their fair share, but the manager doesn't see, and my manager is awful, blah, blah, blah. So you can go down this spiral. In that case, the best thought you could have right now might be, I love my job, I love everyone I work with. And to tell yourself to believe that, or to say that to yourself and believe it, is really difficult, because it's so far away from the reality of what you're confronted with, how you're actually feeling. And it's really hard to get us there, to go a full 180. But to say, what is a better thought I can have right now, is a lot more doable. In the case of maybe the work example, yes, this person you don't like working with, but oh, I really love being challenged on this project. I feel like my skills are being well served here. Or I really do like this coworker, and I'm glad like this is someone that I've connected with through this job. Maybe it's even smaller than that. Instead of anger towards that person, that coworker that's bothering you, you just feel disappointment. And disappointment doesn't feel great either, but it is arguably a better feeling than anger. Like, you just want to try and get yourself a little bit nudged in the opposite direction, in a direction that feels a little bit better than the one that you're feeling. And the idea, I think, for me is like, the more you do it, or the more that I do it, the easier it'll be to continue doing it, to continue nudging myself in a better direction. And ultimately, who does that serve the best? It serves me, because it means there's less noise, there's less stress, there's less, you know, just not good feelings. Nobody wants to feel like crap. That is not a good feeling to feel, even though it's addicting and very easy to feed those thoughts than it is to change into a different way of thinking. But again, the power of small steps, they add up over time. Do not disturb mode, I think, often gets discussed in a more work capacity. How do you stay productive? How do you stay focused? How do you not get distracted? How can you get more done in less time at your job? Like, put on do not disturb. Don't let yourself get distracted by your phone. But I find that more of the disturbances for me when it comes to my phone happen more in my personal life than even my work life. And that's just because it's so easy to just keep scrolling, to get alerted by a notification and indulge in it, because you don't really have something that you need to be doing that's pressing. So I've experimented lately with do not disturb mode, definitely in a more self-care capacity. When I'm exercising, I put on do not disturb mode. I actually take advantage of the fact that on the iPhone you can set do not disturb mode for 1 hour and then it returns back to normal. So I won't miss notifications forever. I won't accidentally keep it on all day, but that little like 1 hour button gives me time to do my exercise. And then if I'm gonna meditate, do not disturb mode absolutely goes on. If I need to do an organization project, you know, that's my self-care thing of the day, is to do something, you know, in a more adult capacity, like organizing or meal prepping or something that I know I need to do that'll make me feel good, even if it doesn't look like traditional self-care, like face masks and a cozy night in a bathtub. Those tasks are important too. I will put on do not disturb mode so that I'm just not getting impacted by notifications. Every app and every device is trying to get your attention all the time with something. So I think that's just a really great way to just silence everything. Community is so important, and helping each other out and being there for people in your life and feeling connected to people. And that's one of the benefits of all things devices, is that it really is this amazing way that allows us to stay connected to so many more people. But there's a time and a place for that too, and you don't want it to cloud over the importance of you and making time for that work for yourself, and not letting other things try and ping you away. I'm gonna sound dramatic when I say this, but one of the biggest stressors in my life is figuring out what I'm gonna make for dinner. It is a constant, literally constant dilemma, because newsflash, I have to eat every single day, not just dinner, other meals as well, but dinner in particular always just gets me. And the thing is, I don't even dislike cooking. I quite enjoy it when I have time for it, but there are some days during the week where I have very little interest in spending time doing that when I could be relaxing. I think a lot of people would say then a great solution to that, to create more space in my evenings and more space for myself, would be to meal prep. But meal prep in its traditional sense of having perfectly beautiful containers filled with perfectly prepped and chopped fruits, veggies, and meals for the whole week is not only a huge time commitment, because to do all that, you need to invest a lot of time at the beginning of the week to get that done, hours to get that done. But I also get bored eating the same thing every single day. By day 3, I'm like, this needs to stop. I cannot go on like this. Thankfully, there's another way, and that way comes in the form of freezing meals. I instead shift gears and plan to make 1 meal a week that's freezer friendly, something that I can put in my freezer and consume 1 night a week for the next 4 weeks. In the winter, I did this with recipes like vegetable lasagna. I froze a ton of portions, and then I said, you know what? For the next 4 weeks, 5 weeks, on Monday night, I'm having lasagna. Or in the summer now, I've been able to do this with black bean burgers, and I can prep a ton of them in advance and say, you know, I've got 4 or 5 in the freezer, so Tuesday nights are gonna be burger night. And if you do one freezer friendly meal a week, it's just a lot less of intimidating of a task because you're really just focusing on making like one larger meal than what you would normally eat. So it feels a little bit more doable on a weekly basis, but you're also keeping the variety in your life and not having to eat the same thing every week. So you get that benefit. You just take it out of the freezer, put it in the oven, and it's good to go. So you're still like making space for maybe on your busiest night of the week or your busiest nights of the week to have that figured out, a freezer friendly meal in place so that you're not leaning on takeout all the time and you're fueling your body still with good things, but you're making more room for yourself and taking something off your to-do list in a way that doesn't ask a huge commitment from you, a huge dedication for you to commit to a Sunday meal prep session. What is the most powerful way that you have added some simplicity into your life, whether it's your work life, your personal life, your home, your mental home? I obviously am so interested in hearing it, but I also think it's always valuable when the comment section becomes a little bit of a resource area for more ideas, because I know you guys always have good thoughts to share. On that note, there's a black bean burger calling my name in the freezer, so that's what I'm doing for dinner tonight. Like the video if you enjoyed it, hit subscribe if you haven't already, and I'll see you guys very soon with the new one. Please have a nice, easy breezy day, night, afternoon, whatever it is when you're watching this, but I'll see you soon. Bye. The construction sounds, they just keep on going. What's a better thought I can have about these construction sounds right now? I'm glad a majority of this video was filmed without construction sounds, so I missed it somehow. I think that's it. I think that's the better thought of the day. I'm glad it's not happening in this apartment. It's just happening in a different apartment.